You believe your choices are your own. The job you pursue, the partner you choose, the beliefs you hold dear. You see yourself as a free agent, navigating the world based on your own will. But what if that freedom was an illusion? Not a simple illusion, but the most complex, sophisticated, and successful illusion ever created. What if your sense of self, your aspirations, and even your discontent are not original thoughts, but outputs of a program you were born into, a program you never consented to? This program has a name. We call it the social contract. It's presented to us as a reasonable agreement, a fair trade. We surrender a little bit of our raw, chaotic freedom in exchange for security, order, and the benefits of civilization. This is the story we are told from birth. It is the foundational myth of our modern world, taught in every school, reinforced by every news channel, and embedded in every law. But a myth is not the truth. It is a story designed to produce a specific outcome. Today, we are going to deconstruct that myth. We will treat the social contract not as a historical agreement, but as what it truly is, an operating system, a piece of code designed to manage human resources on a mass scale. This analysis will be uncomfortable. It requires you to question the very bedrock of your reality. It will feel like pulling a wire from the back of your own skull, because once you see the code, you can never unsee it. But if you are willing to face that discomfort, you will also see the exit. This is not just a deconstruction. This is a guide on how to log out. Let's begin with the architects. Philosophers like Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, and Jean-Jacques Rousseau are credited as the fathers of social contract theory. Hobbes argued that life in a state of nature was solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. To escape this chaos, we rationally agreed to submit to an absolute sovereign for protection. Locke softened this, suggesting we consent to be governed to protect our natural rights, life, liberty, and property. The government's role is to be a neutral judge. Rousseau was more romantic. He believed we enter the contract to achieve a higher form of freedom through the general will of the people. These are elegant theories. They are also fictions. The critical flaw in all of them is the concept of consent. When did you sign this contract? You didn't. You were born into it. There was no negotiation. There were no terms presented for your review. Your consent was assumed, a doctrine known in law as tacit consent. By simply living here, by using the roads and drinking the water, you have apparently agreed to the entire system. This is not the logic of a fair contract. It is the logic of a hostage situation. The social contract was never a voluntary pact made by equals. It was the formalization of a power structure that already existed. It was a software update designed by the powerful to manage the masses more efficiently, replacing overt force with the illusion of legitimacy. The state of nature wasn't overcome. It was institutionalized. The brute force of the strongest individual was replaced by the organized, systemic force of the state. The system doesn't exist to protect your property. It exists to protect the concept of property, which primarily benefits those who already hold it. Think of the national debt. You were born inheriting a portion of a debt you had no part in creating, yet you are expected to pay it through taxes for your entire life. This is a contractual obligation with no consent. The truth is, the social contract is a retroactive justification for control. It's a story we are told to make us compliant participants in a system we did not build and cannot realistically leave. So, if the contract isn't based on consent, How does it maintain control? It does so by programming the individual. The operating system runs on our minds. The first module of this code is the educational system. From a young age, you are not taught how to think. You are taught what to think. You learn a curated version of history, a simplified model of civics, and a deep respect for authority. The structure of school itself is the primary lesson. Sit down, be quiet, follow the bell, complete assigned tasks, and you will be rewarded. It is a 12-year training program for compliant employment. The second module is the media. The media doesn't just report on reality, it manufactures it. As Jean Baudrillard argued, we live in a state of hyperreality, where the simulation of reality becomes more real than reality itself. The media creates our desires, the perfect body, the luxury car, the ideal vacation. It also creates our fears of outsiders, of economic collapse, of social deviation. These manufactured desires and fears keep us running on the hamster wheel, chasing illusions and fleeing shadows, too distracted to examine the cage itself. The third and most powerful module is social pressure. Your peers, family, and community act as the system's immune response. They enforce the code through praise, shame, gossip, and ostracism. Step outside the prescribed path of school, career, marriage, mortgage, children, and you will feel the immediate pressure to conform. Questions like, when are you getting a real job? Or when are you settling down? Are not innocent inquiries. They are system diagnostics, checking if your program is running correctly. This social pressure is the ghost in the machine. It is the system's most effective tool, because it makes us police ourselves and each other for free. Finally, the code is embedded in language itself. Words like duty, responsibility, and patriotism are not neutral descriptors, they are commands. Responsibility is often code for submission to an obligation you never chose. Duty is code for self-sacrifice for the benefit of the system. This programming is so deep that to question it feels like a moral failing. It feels like selfishness. This is not an accident. It is a feature, not a bug. What is the lived experience of running this code? What is the personal cost? First, consider wage labor. For most, this is the primary form of interaction with the system. It is often described as modern slavery, but it's more subtle than that. It's a subscription service. You subscribe to a life, and the monthly fee is 40, 50, or 60 hours of your time per week. You don't just give your time, you give your life energy, your creativity, and your mental focus, all in exchange for digital tokens that allow you to purchase survival and a few system-approved pleasures. The philosopher Schopenhauer saw human life as oscillating between the pain of striving and the boredom of attainment. The modern workplace is a perfect manifestation of this. The pain of Monday to Friday, followed by the boredom of a weekend spent recovering, consuming, and preparing to do it all over again. Then there is the relationship contract. Marriage, in its legal and social form, is a subroutine of the main program. It is an institution designed for social stability, economic efficiency, and the creation of the next generation of system operators. It comes with a host of default terms and conditions that most people never read until it's too late in divorce court, where the state reveals itself as the ultimate third partner in your relationship. The system promotes a romanticized ideal of love, but the underlying contract is economic and social. It has little to do with individual happiness and everything to do with predictability and control. This leads to the illusion of progress. The system tells you that you are moving forward. You get the degree, the promotion, the bigger house. But this is just leveling up within the game. The game itself remains the same. You are accumulating in-game currency that has no value outside the simulation. Nietzsche spoke of the last man, a creature who seeks only comfort and security, who has left the regions where it was hard to live, for one needs warmth. The social contract is the central heating for the last man. It keeps us comfortable enough to never question why we are in the room in the first place. The ultimate cost is your potential. The person you could have become if your mind had been a blank slate, free to design its own life based on its own values. That person does not exist. He was overwritten by the system's code before he could even learn his own name. The process of seeing the code for the first time is often called taking the red pill. It is a disorienting and often painful experience. It is the realization that you are a character in a play you did not write. The initial reaction is often anger. Anger at the system, at the lies, at the people who enforce it. This anger is a trap. It is a powerful emotion, and the system is very good at harnessing powerful emotions. Anger keeps you engaged. It keeps you fighting the system on its own terms, which is a fight you can never win. You become just another gear in the machine, the gear of controlled opposition. True awakening moves beyond anger into a state of cold, clear acceptance. It is the serene and terrifying realization that the system is not malicious. It is simply a system. It is a machine doing what it was designed to do. It has no feelings. It has only functions. You cannot reason with it. You cannot reform it. You can only understand it and then decide how you will relate to it. This acceptance is the foundation of freedom, because once you stop trying to change the machine, you can finally turn your attention to the only thing you can truly control, yourself. So, how do you log out? Logging out does not mean moving to a cabin in the woods and disconnecting from the internet, though that is one expression of it. Logging out is not an act of physical escape, but an act of intellectual and philosophical secession. It is the attainment of personal sovereignty. Here are the practical principles for logging out. First, minimize your dependency. The system's power over you is directly proportional to what you need from it. This is the principle of existential minimalism. Reduce your wants. Escape the cycle of debt and consumption. The less you need, the freer you are. Every possession you own is a chain. Every debt is a cage. Second, opt out of its core subroutines. This is the essence of philosophical MGTOW, men going their own way. It is the sovereign decision to not enter into social and legal contracts, like marriage, whose terms are written by the system for the system's benefit. It is not about hating women. It is about loving your own freedom enough to refuse to gamble it on a rigged game. This same logic can be applied to your career. Stop seeing a job as an identity and see it for what it is, a transaction, a means to an end. This emotional detachment is a form of power. Third, cultivate your own information stream. You have been programmed by the system's input. To log out, you must change the input. Read the books they don't assign in school. Study the philosophies they don't discuss on the news. Listen to the voices that have been marginalized. Deprogram yourself, then reprogram yourself based on your own chosen values. Your mind is your own. Seize control of it. Fourth, achieve location independence if possible. Digital nomadism is a modern expression of logging out. When you are not tied to a single geographic location, you slip through the cracks of national control systems. You become a user with global access rather than a citizen of a single server. Finally, and most importantly, practice conscious disengagement. This is the ultimate art of logging out. You live within the system, but you are not of the system. You see the news, but you don't absorb the narrative. You interact with people, but you don't internalize their judgments. You see the code running all around you in conversations, in advertisements, in political speeches, but you no longer react to it. You simply observe it. You understand the rules of the game so completely that you are no longer a player. You are an observer. This is the freedom that cannot be taken away. The social contract is a code, but you are not a machine. You did not agree to the terms. You were born into them. You are not obligated to run the script. Logging out is not an event. It is a process. It is a daily choice to live deliberately, to think critically, and to build your own meaning in a world of manufactured purpose. The path is not easy. It can be lonely, but it is the only path that leads to authentic freedom. The question is no longer, how can I succeed within the system? The question is, what life will I build for myself now that I am free?